Yeah.
And that makes sense. But then I do think that the reason we are collaborating and the reason we are engaged is because, I guess I'm inclined to say, because we're a good thought partner. And if we're a good thought partner, then we do have a certain capacity, not just to be collaborative, but to also keep elevating the level of thinking between us so that we're able to raise it to another level. So I don't think we're just along for the ride. I guess that would be my thought.
I think you're right, Bena. I think that's true and really fair. It's a fair observation that it is more than being along for the ride, for sure.
For sure.
We're helping to advance movement and change and growth. That is true.
What I'm hearing is, are we basically talking about mentoring or leading adults, or are we actually talking about mentoring and leading people who may not have these type of, they need help in this area? And most of the people that I run into, and even myself from growing from this, it was the fact that introducing them and letting them know that they have them and developing them is the main gist of that. And then my mentoring and my modeling and all of that comes in. But until someone buys into that, I don't know if you were just talking about facilitators or coaches or whatever. I just, when I hear that, introducing that kind of brings a bright light into people's mind. I mean, I've even used that with my friends and different things like that. And just to be mindful of just these 16 habits and began to, figure things out in your life dealing with that. So I don't know, I guess I don't know if you're coming from what you're saying, a coaching or whatever, but I think that sometimes you don't even have buy-in because people don't even know that they need to buy in until they see something or they hear it and they taste it and you model it to them, and then they have to buy in. Most of the people, I had to get to buy in, my teachers, everything. And even with kids, I mean, it's a constant before I began to, so I guess I'm facilitating in a way, but I'm just introducing at first, and then I'm getting them to buy it. I don't know. I don't know.
Denise, I think I appreciate what you offered. And it's that idea of, I think one of the things that you raise is that our conversations that we have as thought partners, as a Sherpa, whatever the term is that we use, they're different depending upon the need and the context and the intention of that exchange. What I think both Art and Bena that you spoke about, as you launch this, is that the habits of mind are the connector. They're the glue, they're the anchor, depending upon the context, the intention, and the kind of conversation. So you might be having a conversation with someone who has no knowledge of the habits of mind, and you might pique their interest by using some of the language, or because of the experience that they have engaging with you that might spark a curiosity in them. Then you might engage with someone else who really wants you to come alongside and co-create something. That to me is a different kind of conversation. And so the word that I keep coming back to internally is our intention in the conversation is different depending on the need and the context. And part of, I think, our challenge and opportunity is to grow, and I'll say me, to grow in my capacity to really lift and keep the habits of mind front and center, both internally for myself and verbally and even non-verbally. as in exchanges with others. I guess the last comment that I wanted to offer is that mentor, facilitator, collaborator, one of the things I thought is, gosh, we could spend a whole hour talking about what do those words mean to each of us.
Mhm.
And just like with the habits of mind, that time for really unpacking those and experiencing those is so important. I think that just really stood out for me, that all of those words have so many different meanings for each of us.
Yeah, I would think that a next step for us somewhere along the line would be to describe what are the attributes of this person who is in a facilitative role with the habits of mind, and what is unique about this particular form of interaction. Also, what do we draw upon from previous experiences? For example, those of you who have been through cognitive coaching, we're not going to give up all that we learned about establishing rapport, about listening with understanding and empathy. We call it something different now, but it's the same thing, about how we ask questions that are not throwaway questions, but really that have an intention behind them, that they are beautiful questions, as Jim Knight says. So we want to use all of those skills that we have learned, but just place them in a new context. And the new context would be for the purpose of drawing on the habits of mind to help solve problems, to establish rapport with other people. Here's an example. I just the other day got an email from a fellow in Hawaii who used to teach at one of our certified schools. He moved to another island. He moved to Maui, and he joined a school, and he has tried to spread the habits of mind, but he's alone. He's a loner. And so he's not been able to convince the teacher or the administrator or the other teachers that they ought to look at and consider the habits of mind. So what advice would I give him? What did I do? Well, I went to Catherine Kane because she knows him, and asked him to, and she's going to work with him to ask him for some suggestions that she might give him in spreading it to others. So all I'm saying is that I don't necessarily have to coach him, because we have a large number of people who can do that for us. Catherine is both familiar with the situation in Hawaii as well as knowing this fellow. So it was pretty obvious. So the only advice that I could give him was hang in there, persist, keep doing what you're doing, because I drew upon the habits of mind for that one. But he already knows that. I don't need to tell him that. So anyhow, what I'm saying is the problems that people bring to us are not just instructional, are not just personal, are not just interactive. We are able to hear them and work with them and discover what they really want to accomplish and why, so that we have to work with them in such a way that we build rapport with them. And the intent of it is to help them solve problems, or to help them solve problems for themselves, I should say. So that's just one example of how somebody came to me with a problem, and what I've tried to do is to get them to think independently with another person who is more knowledgeable than I am.